I'm going to start this one with a question. Can you love yourself despite what you see in the world and what you see in your life and despite what you think? Despite what you think, can you practice love? And that's what I think this moon is about. No matter what you think is going on, no matter what for sure evidence you see and helps you understand what you're seeing based on what you know, could you practice love at the same time? And I don't mean like go out and love people and proclaim love. I mean like really just love yourself. This is tricky business because there's so many ways that we do not do this for ourselves. Could you be the one? Could you be the one for yourself? Could you be the one that you could depend on to have a soft landing place with? Could you be the one that gives you the encouragement that you need to carry on with your day, to make the smallest of decisions? You know, we count on ourselves for internal stress that we think motivates us towards positive goals. And I guess I'm wondering if there's some disruption of that. If we could just see what happens if we love ourselves, just love who we are, all the ways that we show up and all the messiness that we are. Just loving ourselves because we're here. Just practicing that curiosity of, wow, I'm here. Wow, all this stuff is around me. Wow, look at all these relationships around me. Wow, this is amazing. Holding a space of awe and a space of unknowing. Filling the edges with love. Whatever that means. I mean, practice it, especially if it's sort of this unknown thing. What would it look like if I loved myself more? And if I loved myself more, would I behave differently? Would I have different goals? And would I have different problems? Would I have different puzzles to solve? Welcome to this full moon. It's a full Libra moon. And in my astrological chart, I also have a Libra moon. And I have no idea what that means, but maybe you astrologer friends out there could tell me. But I think it means something special, like I get a special sticker for this moon that matches my birth moon. Something like that, maybe. Hello and welcome. This is the full pink moon of this year. And don't we want to know what is going on with this anyway? Hi, I'm Anne Headley, and this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway, where I use my intuition to share a story about this moment that offers guidance, certainly back to myself. This is the place where I contemplate the current moon, whether new or full, and what that means for me as a pathway through daily life. I wonder how universal themes show up for us through different seasons, and as I reach for meaning, using my imagination and intuition, I discover a richness in the simplicity of paying attention to life as it is. I was having a conversation recently with a friend, and she said, it's so outrageous every day. I don't even have words for it. And another said, I keep finding myself saying, what is going on over and over? And I laughed and said, that's what I'd like to know. And I'm curious about these questions. What are the predominant questions that are coming up for you? And the questions that are coming up for me a lot of times have to do with, what do I do? What do I do? And as I ask that question to myself, I feel myself holding my hands out in front of me, right in front of my belly, both hands as if I'm holding a dodgeball in each hand. And I don't really want to be holding a dodgeball. I kind of think of it like an illuminated golden ball in front of me. In each hand, my hands are wide open and they're perceiving something that's right in front of me. And I don't quite know what it is, but it feels full. It feels full of potential. And it feels like not just a responsibility, but an opportunity. But it does feel like a combination of both of those things. And I kind of want to keep talking about that. This moment, the questions that are coming up have to do with, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to make this life and this world? And maybe this is a question that we always have for ourselves, but it just feels potent right now. What are you going to do to make the world, this life of yours, what you want it to be? And with full moons, there really is often this feeling of potency, like if you were making some medicine for yourself, that this is the moment where it has, what would you call it? Like it's infused fully. It's potent now. It's this fullness that leads us to a new place or illuminates a path for us that we haven't, maybe we've seen, but we haven't really considered before, or at least we're seeing it differently. There's some illumination here. There's possibility. And at the same time, there's an incredible feeling of overwhelm. For me this time, the overwhelm doesn't feel overwhelming. I don't know what to do. It feels very tender, like I'm full to bursting, and that lightest touch is very sensitive. Kind of like if you're very, very, very pregnant and the skin on your belly is really, really taut, and sometimes it can be like overly sensitive because of how much it's stretched. I don't know if that's a good image or not. But anyway, this moon to me feels tender. And I think it requires a kind of faith. And faith that, as of late, has been something that was kind of tossed out on the compost heap. That it's been out there for some time. And I'm wondering if you, and when I say you, you know I mean me. I'm wondering if I can recall back to a time when I really did have faith in something, before I knew better, before I wisened up to it. But this time when I had faith, like a kind of believing in the Easter Bunny kind of faith, believing in something that turned out to not be real, but there was something in me that absolutely had that faith in the impossible. It didn't matter that it didn't make sense to me. I wanted the Easter Bunny to be real. I'm using the Easter Bunny just because we're getting close to Easter time for anybody that celebrates that. But you know what I mean? Like that time when you could pretend play and you could do this thing which suspended your disbelief. That's kind of, we got to pull that back somehow without denying our maturity around it. But we just can't take everything at face value, because face value is just as much a problem. Face value is just what you see on the surface, and anybody can put a mask on. So there's some kind of tricky equation to do with our faith, rediscovering faith with maturity and letting ourselves not quite know how everything's going to turn out. I think if we take this kind of discerning faith and we add to it the love that we're practicing, the way that we are able to love ourselves for being here, for showing up, for breathing, for occupying space, for being the special, unique, incredible beings that we are. You add that to your creative process and your creative juices. And this is what's necessary to heal and to hold space for and to form new ways of being in community and community webs that support people and animals and plants and lineages and histories, where everything is included. Just that everything belongs because it's here. It exists, and there's space enough for all of it and all of us and all of the ideas to meet up with their friends, their idea friends. I like the idea of the new age and a new earth, but I also think it's somewhat problematic because it can be a way of ignoring or bypassing what's right in front of us. So this kind of utopian dreaming that isn't really rooted in our present reality, because our present reality is holding these anchor points of our wounds and our pain and our suffering that are important for us to kind of see our ways all the way around. So we're not just seeing the shadow side of it, but we're seeing the totality of it. Like if I look at my divorce process and I'm only seeing the ways that I was harmed and how it didn't go the way I thought it should go, or whatever it is that I want to hang on to, then I'm not seeing the whole picture of it, which is it was a huge growth opportunity for me. And I wouldn't want to go one way or the other. I wouldn't want to excuse all of it and say it was a wonderful, amazing process for me. It's both and. It's all of it, the whole thing. And so anchoring our pain points gives us a really established way of creating the world, or, some people would call it creating heaven on earth. And heaven on earth isn't everything is good and light. It's everything is whole and seen and acknowledged and understood. So for me, rather than ignore pain and suffering or bypass it, I think it's a potent kind of medicine for our times to use these anchor points in reality and attempt a kind of healing that integrates the lived experiences of everyone we find ourselves in community with. Not just chosen community, but everybody that we find ourselves in relationship with. So I was a New Age baby, and I was really into Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now. And I followed Ram Dass and was so curious about all the things that he had to say, and they were resonating with me in different ways. And at some point I picked up this book, Emmanuel's book, The Choice for Love, because it had an introduction by Ram Dass. So Emmanuel is a channeled being, and I don't know totally how I feel about that. I'm not sitting here recommending that you go listen to or read the Emmanuel books, but there's a lot in there about love that really feels resonant to me when I think about how I want to learn about and experience practicing love, like I talked about in the beginning. And here's a part in the book that I opened to and I think is good for us right now. The love you are waiting for does not exist until you allow it to touch you. The blessings that are all around you in your world cannot be known until you give them presence in your life. There is so much in your world you have not seen, have not heard. The contracted self knows only the lens that he or she was given. What is to be done? While you are still human, if you would only allow your hearts to open just so much each day, to touch your passion, to honor your loving, you would find an entirely different world than the one you thought you were living in. And you would find an entirely different self than who you thought you were. So there's lots of, this is me again, by the way, I'm not reading the book anymore. There's lots of ways to practice loving yourself. And there's silly ways or simple ways. Maybe it's not silly at all. Maybe it's profound. But, if you do not tell yourself that you love yourself, this is a big problem. You have to look in the mirror and say, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Maybe you all already do that, but please do that. Please do that for me, for you, for the whole world. It's not that big of an ask, is it? Like, I know I've talked to somebody about it before and they were like, but I'm just lying. I mean, it feels so weird and I don't like it. And I think that if we cannot do this, we've got a real problem on our hands, don't we? I mean, it really needs to be an inside job, this loving business. And the other thing that I want to bring up for this particular moon is, and did we talk about this last time? The question is, what do you stand for? How are you going to do this? And so if love is the basis, and then you agree that you will stand for love as a connective force between beings, humanitarian love, what will you do that helps you stand for love? And I think that it's something we kind of have to sit with. Like, some people are going to be like, I'm going to feed people. I'm going to grow food. I'm going to repair things. I'm going to innovate new ways of being. And all of that is a way to stand for love, but it uses your own unique gifts and abilities, and not the ways that you think you are supposed to be in the world, but like the ways that bring you joy and that you feel passionate about, so that you can share those things. This is like old news. I know this is old news, but it just seems so important right now that you take a couple of moments. Remember, I'm talking to myself. I'm saying it you. I feel so emphatic about it. But a couple of moments each day, and remember what you love. What do you love? What did you always love? What did you come in here with? These kind of special gifts and talents that you may need to, what would you say, refine? But that there's the essence of them, that they just bring you so much joy. You have enthusiasm for these things. Sometimes it's more than one. But there's many ways which they weave together. I was listening to this little bit of, I don't know what you would call it. It wasn't an interview, but it was Ram Dass sitting next to someone who was channeling Emmanuel, because I was looking at all of this stuff. And Emmanuel, through the channel, said, "Heaven on earth is inevitable. I am calling to your heart's longing. It is time to get busy and rally together under the banner of love." And because I was watching this video of Ram Dass, it reminded me of when Ram Dass came to the Omega Institute the summer I was on staff there. And my friend was feeling a bit critical of Ram Dass and said something to the effect, I'm not going to exactly get this right, but he was like, we're here on summer staff at Omega, and we're basically running the place with our labor, which was unpaid for the most part. Some people got paid a little bit, and some people were there, got fed and housed, although we lived in tents, most of us. And we were there because under this guise of New Age spirituality. And he asked Ram Dass about this, like, here's this place that's professing the New Age, the new way of being, and we're basically being run through patriarchal, extractive methods. And Ram Dass's answer was a little unsatisfactory, but maybe it was just a little naive in a way. And he said, well, you're doing selfless service, and that is a great honor. I think I got it right. But that was my understanding of that conversation. And it was like slightly disappointing because really there was this hope or looking towards some kind of like spiritual guru to show up and solve all the problems and see everything clearly. And I'm telling you this story because we still find ourselves sometimes inside of systems of oppression. And I would say that, I agree with the concept of selfless service, that it matters how you think about what you're doing. And I also think that there is a way of completing actions, tasks, jobs, and completing them in a way that you're reducing your own karma and reducing the karma of the situation. Like if I was going to go work at Omega, I would wish to go there and have it be the last time anyone was ever used, that their labor was used in the name of spirituality, that there was more of an equal exchange, and that somehow my being there would be part of the transition to honoring each other equally and finding ways that the work that we do is valued. And part of that, I believe, is valuing ourselves and knowing how to ask for our value to be exchanged. I didn't think much of myself when I was there working for Omega. I didn't think much of my labor. I didn't have a high value for it, and I believed that I was just lucky to be there. And I was lucky to be there, and it was a great experience. But it also wasn't, there was something a little fishy about the hierarchy of how things were going. And it was sort of just like, well, that's business. That's how we do it. And I think my friend was questioning, like, shouldn't we be the ones that are remaking and rethinking the way these old patterns are continuing to play out over time? So I don't know if this is the way, but I have this like little titchy touch of faith that by holding and honoring ourselves and loving ourselves so much as we move forward into our lives as we know them, combined with creativity, so a little bit of faith, a little bit of creativity, creates new ways of being together that we have not yet imagined. Like this full moon is illuminating pathways for us that we just, maybe they were there, but we just never saw or considered them before. So let's ask the I Ching. What does the I Ching think about this full moon? And would you please give us some clarity and some understanding about how we can best use this full moon to understand ourselves and the world right now? And we receive hexagram 21, biting through. Now, always the hexagrams have different names attached to them. Biting through can also be reform, which, reform. The time calls for energetic reform. It's a time to bite through to the truth, cracking the situation open like a bone between your teeth, using the power of a diviner to open up the smooth surfaces of things and penetrate to the essence. Resting content with appearances may be easier, but it is no longer enough. Deal with obstacles as you would something tough in your food. Bite and gnaw your way through until your teeth meet. It will help to use the determination of an investigator or a judge, intent on restoring the world to good order, who will let nothing stand between them and the truth. The questions to ask right now are, what must you do to get to the truth? And how can you become more effective? And we get changing line 4, biting into dried, bony meat, gains a metal arrow. Constancy in hardship bears fruit, good fortune. Dried bony meat is tough and contains no worthwhile nourishment. Even enormously hard work will never yield the rewards you seek. You might be tempted to give up. But if you let yourself be deterred, you will never discover the shining metal arrowhead hidden in the meat. The arrow is still not what you were hoping for. It's a different kind of reward, valuable on a completely new level. This is not perishable flesh, but fine, enduring metal, heavy and solid in your hand. It does not feed you. It gives you the means to catch better food independently. Like the intense focus and determination that kept you persevering, it will always fly straight and true. Through single-minded persistence, you gain skills, resourcefulness, and a concentrated inner strength. So this changing line for me helps me, that's the part of the faith, which is we may not be getting what we think we want. We may not be getting a good bite of meat, say, but gaining the arrow is a whole different kind of experience, reward, and there was no way we could have expected that because we weren't imagining that anything like that was in that bite that we were taking. That's the place where I'm talking about having some sort of mature faith that there might be a better way. There might be something to gain by moving towards this, what feels like obstacle possibly after obstacle. And the hexagram 21 with changing line 4 moves to hexagram 27, nourishment. Also nourishing, also jaws and the tiger's mouth. Nourishing and being nourished. Take things in. The mouth, daily bread, speaking, words, major site of initiation and creative transformation, a seed figure. Jaws refers to the ritual meal and sacrifice offered on all important occasions through which we nourish and are nourished by the spirits, the world of the invisible. The questions to ask are, what would nourish you? How is your hunger motivating you? If you accept this as nourishment, who will you become? And I think that nourishment goes back to the idea of, what did you feel once as enthusiasm in your life? And can that be one of your essential passions? Can that be something that is essentially part of your unique configuration of who you are? And if you attend to that, does that nourish you in your life? So back to the oracle here. Literally, this hexagram is called jaws. It means not only what you eat, but all the processes and structures that sustain nourishment. It includes all forms of nourishment, physical, social, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, all creating and recreating an individual ecosystem to sustain and shape you. So how are you nourished physically? How are you nourished socially, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? And can you list those out and notice, like, are there places that need a little bit of support? Do you need to find a friend and go for a walk with them every week? Do you need to find someone who understands you emotionally so that you can share that? Do you need to just plain old watch a sad movie and cry and get some tears moving? Constancy brings good fortune. Steady, clear persistence in honoring what truly sustains you. See the jaws. Become aware. How do you habitually nourish yourself and others? What deep instincts are at work here? What real nourishment are you seeking? And noticing as well, when we share our unique gifts and talents with others, we may be nourishing them, but that's a kind of nourishment for ourselves. It's a kind of validating and seeing ourselves connected and interwoven with our friends and communities. I pulled some angel cards before we started, and I got humor. Remember, Bell Hooks says this: we cannot have a meaningful revolution without humor. Every time we see any group trying to move forward politically in a radical way, when they're humorless, they fail. Humor is essential to the integrative balance that we need to deal with diversity and difference and the building of community. We get understanding, truth, sensitivity and generosity. So be generous with yourself, love yourself, and see what happens with this full moon, letting something crack open in you and holding these globes of possibility, not hidden on the inside, but right in your hands, that your hands have the possibility of interacting with the world that creates a generative, new space of being. I think this is an incredibly positive way of looking at this moment in time, and I hope you do too. That's it for now. That's our podcast. I thank you so much, as always, for being here and for listening all the way here to the 30th minute. May you be well, and may you know peace, and may all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, may they be well, and may they know peace. You can always reach out to me at www.annhedley, ANNHEDLY.com. Okay, bye for now.